Coming on today's call today is April 22nd. Got a special guest for you, and it's not Brian Miranda, it's Carol Stephen. Hi, Carol.
Hello, everybody.
Carol snuck into Brian's office so she could do the podcast webinar from there. So that's why we see Brian Miranda's name on there. But Carol, thank you so much for coming on today's call. I have the syllabus of what we've gone over this masterclass over the last few weeks now. If you guys can see it here on the screen, our 2026 masterclass syllabus. Module 1, we talked about marketing, we talked about advertising strategies. Great feedback from a lot of you that have implemented and executed on some of these initiatives, on some of the marketing and flyers and geographic farms, some really good results that we're hearing from that. So kudos to you guys for implementing it and not just coming on here and listening to it and saying why it won't work for you, because it all works. Just a matter if you execute it and put it into action. And this is something that I'm excited to talk about with Carol today, because Carol, you're one of those people that are big on education, big on learning, but also big on execution. So we're gonna talk a little about that today for sure. Our second module, strategic growth and mastery. We had time management. Both Trish and I did that back on March 11th, showing you really how to lay out your day, what the perfect week looks like. And we're going to pick Carol's brain a little bit on that. Financial management. How do you manage your money? How do you balance it? How do you run a business like a business so that you have reserves and you're spending money on the right things, and also prepared for times that may not be that good. So as we know, the real estate market has its ups and downs, and you have to treat it as such, knowing that there's going to be good months and bad months, but how do you level it off? And then last couple weeks ago, we did luxury marketing. I went over some of the flyers that we're using down here in the luxury market down in Naples, but same flyers work everywhere. Dallas, they work in Minnesota, they work in New Jersey, they work in the Capital District, right? So it's just a matter of you getting those flyers and pieces out there. So if you missed any of these calls and conversations, you can definitely go on to our private Facebook page, which is the Real Estate Masterclass on Facebook. And just if you're a real estate agent, just click on there and we'll let you guys in, and you can get the recordings, you can get the downloads from there. So that's also a really good resource for you to use. So today, April 22nd, is our Live with Leaders podcast. We have Carol Stephen here. Carol's been with Miranda Real Estate Group for over 11 years. She's done a tremendous job on not only building her business from the ground up, but also has helped other agents, and no secret why she's on this call here today. Always looking to lend out a hand, and always looking to share and help other agents grow in our real estate space, if you would, at Miranda Real Estate Group, but also outside of our company as well. So with that, good afternoon, Carol, and thank you so much for being on the call.
Hi, everybody. It's nice to be here, and thank you for asking me.
Yeah, so Carol, I know that we did a podcast not too long ago where you talked a lot of different things, but specifically on this call, I wanted to focus on those 3 different strategic growth and mastery topics that we did over the last few weeks, and maybe go a little bit deeper. I know you shared a lot of great stuff with us on that podcast, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, go to livewiththeleaders.com. You can go to livewiththeleaders.com and actually listen to a copy or a replay of that podcast. Carol did a great job there. But last year, Carol, just over the last 12 months, you've done just under 12 million, so just over $11 million of business, 30 transactions, which is great. But the thing that stands out to me the most on there, Carol, is that out of the 30 transactions, you had 22 listings and 8 buy sides. And that's impressive, because in this market, especially in the Capital District, being in a strong seller's market, listings is where you need to be. And you've really honed in and focused on that. But you're very organized, you know your numbers, you give great raving fan service to your clients. So I thought maybe you start off by just sharing, for those that don't know who you are, how you got into the business and why real estate.
Well, thank you again for having me. Real estate, because my background is in customer service, bartending 30 years plus, and property management 30 plus. And then I came to you, like you said, just a little over 11 years ago, and was like, I'm all in. This time I'm all in. So I think it's for, you know, a lot of realtors say, oh, I like to help people. Really, my background being in customer service, I knew that was my niche. I knew that was what I wanted to do. It really is to help people, and that's not like a cliche.
Right, right, awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's it definitely is your niche, if you would, and you've done a great job building it out. And like I mentioned, our last module, we talking about time and financial management. We also talked about luxury marketing. Let's start with the time management piece, because I get a lot of people, and actually, I love to do another whole podcast with maybe 2 or 3 agents talking about like the day in the life of a real estate agent, right? Because a lot of people get in real estate and they don't really know, other than what they see on HGTV of driving around in luxury cars and making, you know, $150,000, $300,000 commission on one deal, which we both know is not realistic. Let's talk about, you know, your day in the life of what you do, but more so, like, what are some of your, what's your daily routine look like? Like, what are some of your non-negotiables in your daily routine? What do you do?
My non-negotiables definitely in the real estate part of my business is always my reach outs, my follow-ups, my calls, my emails, my texts, whatever it may be. I'm going to conduct that in the beginning of my day. Obviously, when I get my personal things done, the walking and the breakfast and all that stuff, but it's the reach outs, whatever it is that you as the realtor are doing as a reach out, be it a pop by, or put it into your schedule. I can't stress this enough. In the beginning, I did not. It's scheduled. So I make 50 calls a day. Do I get to talk to 50 people? No. Do I get a hold of them? No. But that doesn't matter. I've still got it in there. I'm making 50 calls a day, and I've got that time blocked, and I'm on it. And that's part of the reach outs.
Okay. And that's one of, you know, the other question too, I was going to have for you, and that's one of them, the calls. You know, what are your top 2 or 3 daily activities that truly drive your business? So number one, it's going to be those 50 calls a day, like you said, and you're not going to hit everyone because not everyone's going to be available. But even if you leave them a message, it's still top of mind awareness to them as that you care and you're reaching out to them. What are the other, say, 2 or 3 activities that, or say, I should say 1 or 2 activities that you do other than calls on a daily basis to drive your business?
I do on my schedule, schedule my EDDMs, my farming, you know, my every door direct mails. I also schedule any of the posts on my social media. I schedule them out. And again, as long as I'm staying focused on making those calls or those reach outs, they could be 20 emails. You know what I mean? On top of the 50 calls, but the block time is for the reach outs. I call them reach outs, not so much follow-ups, because I want to differentiate the difference between my follow-ups to my clients that I'm with now, the listings or the buyers that I have, and my reach out. Because my reach out is my business.
Yeah, your reach out's a proactive part of your business, right? Where you're actually proactively reaching out to them. You're not doing it because you're in a deal or you have to get back to them. You're actually taking an extra step to reach out to them outside of the normal work frame, if you would, of doing business with them. So
that's the 2 parts. So there's the reach out, and then the part in the morning is my follow-up.
Got it. So obviously, you know, we talk about time management. You mentioned about blocking your time, and now you're much better at scheduling that time into your day. I find, Carol, that a lot of agents, when I'm talking to them, the importance, because we all know, right? The reach outs are so important. And there's some teams that I know that are out there that their only requirement to be on the team is that they have to make 20 connects, which equates probably to your 50 dials a day, depending. Sure, some days you do 50, you get 20 connects, some days you don't. But 20 connects being that one main focus, right, is what they have to do. And if they hit that 20, their business is always going to be there, right? The activity is there for them. But the question I get from a lot of people is that, well, Willie, a lot of times I'll sit down and I'll start making phone calls, but then this one calls or that one calls or this one wants to go see a house and I have to do an inspection over here. How do you protect your time? Like, how do you stay available to your clients while also protecting your time to get those non-negotiables done?
Well, I ask a lot of questions, and I didn't on probably the first couple of years, I just jumped, like you just said, newer agent. Oh, yep, I'll show it to you at 3 o'clock. And I know there's been many stories about just ask them. So what I've done is over the years is I've turned it around and I said, like, if I'm calling you, I'm reaching out to you and my text is coming, I want to see 123 Main Street, then I finish with my reach out. I do not touch that text. And then I say, when are some available times for you? Or what did you think was interesting? I ask more questions than I used to because I just don't jump. And I think that's the key to the change in my success in real estate over, I probably say the last 5 years, is that let me see what works best for both you and for me. And I'm not afraid to say that anymore. And again, I understand newer agents are going to be slightly afraid, but if you redirect the question back to them, instead of saying, yeah, I can show it to you at 3 o'clock, you can also say things like, if you do have a computer in front of you, well, that doesn't have a garage and it doesn't have central air. Did you know that? Don't just jump and say, yeah, I'll show it to you at 3. Again, it's all about the connection and the questions that you ask. Early on, I didn't do that.
Right. And it's you controlling it, right? So if you're calling them and saying, hey, yeah, great, you want to go see that property? What time you want to go see it at 3 o'clock? All right, great. Let me get back to you and see when it's available. Then you can kind of set the narrative from there as to when you're going to show it, right? If you're not available at 3, you can always say, hey, 3 is not going to work, but how about 4? How about 5? Or how about the next day?
And I have a lot of templates that I send out, especially if they are reaching out and they're saying, I want to see it. I always say, thank you for reaching out and so on and so forth. And what are some available times that work for you today, tomorrow, and Friday?
Perfect.
And then they give it to me, and then I work them into my schedule and not the other way around.
Got it. So what's one thing that you stopped doing, Carol, that improved your productivity? I know that's probably one of them, right? Not jumping, right?
Yeah.
And that's a big one right there, because if you could protect your time, that's going to be huge, and that's going to help you improve your productivity. But is there any other thing?
I do want to say something about that, Willie, because when you don't jump, then there's a chance, if I was to say, yeah, I'll show you today at 3, and we get there without me saying it doesn't have a garage, it doesn't have central air, it's, got a finished basement and you didn't want that, then we get there and all those things. So now I've disappointed them, they've disappointed me, and I haven't done the best possible job for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great point.
It kind of goes hand in hand. Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else that you stopped doing that improved your productivity?
Yes, I do not any longer call and say, just wanted to check in. I don't do that anymore. I haven't done that for close to 2 years now, I think. So what I usually do is I start with something like, I just saw a dog video and I thought of Winston, or I just saw a cat video. I do it that way. I don't say I'm looking to check in, because it's a sales call then. So I go back to what I've said all along, which is the connection. That was a big difference for me on my reach out calls. I don't say I'm checking in, or I'll say, hey, I saw 123 Main Street and it looked like what I showed you last year at 456 Main Street. And it opens up.
Yeah, so you're calling more with intention, right? Being more intentional about why you're calling versus just checking in, right?
Right. Well, my intention is also, like you just said, is to check in, but they don't know it.
Right, right.
That's where the difference is for me in my business.
Right. And a lot of that, you've shared this before, and I'll just share with everyone on the call today. I mean, it's going on their Facebook, seeing what's going on in their lives, calling them and saying, hey, congratulations on your promotion, or congratulations on little Johnny graduating, or whatever that may be, just to create more connection and deepen that relationship with that client.
Right. And that's the key, to deepen the relationship and the connection. Why? Because they know, like, and trust you.
That's right. That's right. All right. So that's on the time management piece. Is there anything else, just say a day in the life of Carol, that you really, obviously you're structured on your calls, you're structured on your, time blocking. Anything else like during the day, like maybe let's talk a week, right? Sometimes you're in the office, sometimes you're not in the office, sometimes you work from your home office, but the day in the life of a real estate agent for you right now versus say what it was when you were brand new. Anything you can share with people that are on the call that may be wondering what that looks like?
When I was new, I jumped, like we just discussed.
Right.
Now I'm much more structured than I already was. But I think the other thing is if you know what you're good at, if you're good at Popeyes, then make up the Popeyes and schedule it to go do that. If you're good at videos, then you should be doing a video a day. You know, lean into what you're good at. I'm good at structure, organization, and sticking to my list.
That's great. That's great. No, that's great. You know, have a list, have your structure, and block that time. So that's awesome stuff on the time management piece. So thank you for that. All right, let's switch gears over to financial management because I know you do a great job with that as well. But early on, you know, we all make mistakes. I remember the days when, you know, when I first got into it, had no money, and you know, someone said do a billboard, so I went and just ran and did a billboard, and you know, had my pager at the time on, and I'm like, all right, can't wait. All these calls are going to start coming in. And literally it was my mother who called and said, I saw your billboard on Route 9, you know, because she was living in Clifton Park at the time. And I think that was it, maybe one or two other people. Excuse me, but it was a lot of money back then and really didn't give me the return because that's more of a branding tool, even though it does work, but it works in conjunction with other things that you do, at least what I found. But I was throwing a lot of money at different areas. And I think you have to do that sometimes to see what works, what doesn't work. But is there any big money mistakes that you made early on, and what did you learn from them?
I will say I probably did exactly what all the new realtors do, and that is I spent money on bells and whistles, to your point, billboard or menu placemats at restaurants, at diners. It wasn't even in areas I wanted to be, you know, folders, just everything. And again, it goes to, yeah, it works, but it works after they know who you are, or that's a way to brand yourself. So I think in the beginning I did that, and I also bought leads instead of working my sphere. I can't stress that enough. Hands down, that was probably the biggest one for me in my first probably 2 solid 3 years, is buying leads. And I was like, I got all these people that like me already. What am I doing? These other people don't even know me. They don't even like me. You know what I mean?
So why do you think that is? Because that is very common, Carol, where I'll hear agents say, you know, they'll take all these colder leads or internet leads or whatever, and they won't even work the people that they know. Why do you think that is?
Because I think it goes back to the bells and the whistles and thinking that you're going to be on HGTV and you're going to get a fancy car, and this is the way they did it. They bought Zillow leads, or they bought Trulia leads, or whatever it was. But I think it's mind-boggling to me now that I look back on it because of all the money that I spent. Because again, I had no connection with these people. I was just meeting them. You know what I mean? And I think it's because we want to be successful, and we we think that's what everybody else did, which is not what everybody else did.
Yeah, and what I found over the years, my you know, just looking at it from a 30,000 foot above level and taking a look at it, a lot of times people don't have confidence in themselves as a new agent, and they feel funny going to friends and family, and almost like they're going to be judged in a way or be rejected in a way because they don't have the experience. So they rather go to work with people that they don't know versus sometimes working with the people they do know. And I told them that, you know, when you do that, would you rather have them work with a total stranger, or would you rather have them work with you? And why not go after that database? Why not go after those people? You're very knowledgeable, you have your license, and if you don't have all the answers, you always have a team or a broker to go back to leverage that. And I think I've seen that over the years too, Carol, where people just don't have that confidence in the beginning to do that.
Right. And confidence has never been a problem for me, as we all know, except for it does make sense because, again, I was listening to what this one was doing, what that one was doing, and I thought, oh, I'll just shell out $1,000 and I'll get 5 leads a day. Right. But again, they're just leads. You know what I mean? You got to do. So yeah, that was probably my biggest mistake, my largest money mistake.
Now, as far as income goes, right, managing your commissions, you know, there's good months, there's bad months, there's months that go on and on and on sometimes for some agents. And a lot of that is because what I found is the consistency. If they're not consistent every week, every day of doing certain things, an example would be, right, you know, you hear this from me every fall. I always say, guys, keep working, keep, work through November, December, keep making your calls. And I know you do because I see you in the office doing so. But a lot of agents just check out because they're like, hey, no one's buying a house in November. The holidays are here. December is pretty much a wash. And then January, by the time they get going, it's 2-3 weeks into January. Now they almost have 60, 90 days that they haven't really done any proactive marketing. Of course, you're not going to have leads. Of course, you're not going to have sales that are coming in. And that's a big mistake that I've seen a lot of agents do, managing their ups and downs. You have a really consistent schedule. Your income's there, but it was not always like that. So how do you manage your income with the ups and downs of commission in the real estate business?
Because I look at it, and I've always looked at it as a business. And early on, I decided, regardless of how the month is, good or bad, my financial plan is set so that I pay myself a salary. There's a lot of realtors that don't do that, but I do that because no matter if the month is bad or the month is good, I'm still taking the same salary. So when you get a $20,000 commission, I'm not running around jumping. Well, I will probably for a hot second or whatever. But anyway, I'm still getting that same salary, okay,
Right.
regardless. And then next month when I only make $2,000, guess what? It doesn't matter. I'm still getting the same salary.
Right.
So if you have a business plan, financial plan, speak to someone. If you're not good with numbers, speak to someone about doing that. But if you put that in place, everything else just flows.
Yeah, no, great advice. And we used to do back in the day at Prudential, we used to have a 12-week roll, we called it, a 12-week roll. But basically, it was a bank that the company set for you when you first started with the company. But it was really almost like a draw. It really was a draw. And what they would do, let's just say it's $1,000 a week. For the next 12 weeks, your first quarter, we're going to give you $12,000. We're going to put it in this bank. And every week, you're going to get $1,000 paycheck, right? But in that 12-week time period, any commissions that you make go against that $12,000. So the goal is to make more than $12,000 in that 12 weeks so that you can have an increase in your pay come the next 12 weeks, if that makes sense. So it was basically whatever your balance was in there divided by 12, and it kept doing that. So to your point, if you put $20,000 in there, you're still only taking your $1,000, but now when you divide that by 12, maybe the next week you're taking out $1,500, right? Because you have more money that's going to be in there to spend. So, but yeah, averaging that out, and sometimes it's a lot harder to do than not because you have taxes involved and bills that are coming up and stuff like that. But I always talk to agents, especially getting in, if you can bank yourself or bank your personal expenses or have a bank that you set up for yourself for the first at least 3 months, I would prefer 6 months. If you can have that and then work hard and go full time on real estate, you'll do very well, especially if you're doing the right things consistently.
Right, and I think that's the other thing. There's probably a lot of newer agents that are saying, well, that's because she makes money and she can do, it doesn't matter. If I'm pretty sure most people know, but last year, my first 2 quarters were like in the tank. You know what I mean? It didn't matter. I still paid myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I still got it from my reserves from whatever, the year before or whatever. Bottom line is make it work for you financially. Maybe you only give yourself $100 a week. I don't know what it is. It's got to work for you.
Yeah, great advice, great advice. So what do you consistently reinvest back into the business, right? Because you can make money, but now it takes money to make money, and that is true in any business. But you're reinvesting back into your business. And, rule of thumb, I would always say, if you're looking to always give back 10% back into marketing of your business. So if you want to make $100,000 a year, then in your mind, know that 10,000 needs to go back into marketing, whether it be postcards or whether it be your COI or whether it be flyers or internet leads, whatever. Not that it has to be all at one time, but if you got a $1,000 commission check, take $100 and put that back into marketing. That $100 will sometimes 5 times, 10 times, or even more by reinvesting back. So what do you consistently reinvest back in your business?
So I've never changed my financial or business plan in the last 7 years. It's 30% for taxes, 10% for charity, 20% back into my business, and then 40% is left for my personal and so on and so forth. The 20% business could be placemats now that I'm branded, could be a billboard, could be and is my EDDM, my every door direct mail. It just depends on, for me, what is that year's plan, and meaning financial plan. What is my net profit for that year, and how am I going to come, with that? So keep that in mind. 20% goes back into business. We're doing that again. If I get $10,000 commission check, $2,000's going into the business account.
Mm-hmm.
And that pays my whatever it is, listing leads, whatever it is that is going to be paid out. That's the most important, I think, for me, to have a number and never to change it. And that, I think that's where newer realtors get into trouble. Oh, well, I only made $1,200 on this commission check, so I'm not going to give the business that.
Yeah, I'll do it. I'll do it next check, right? I'll do it next check. Yeah.
And then your car breaks down, or something happens. You know what I mean? You got to get braces for the kids or whatever.
So what one advice would you give, financial advice would you give to a new agent coming on board?
So what I would do financially for a newer agent is make sure that you had 6 months prior to getting your real estate license. But like you just said, if you didn't and you've only got 3 months, that means you're going to hustle up. You've got to hustle up, unless you've got a safety net. It could be a partner, it could be a husband, a wife, whatever it is. That's something completely different. But if you don't have a budget, a money plan, a money list, talk to someone to figure it out, because to what you just said, Willie, when you get a commission check and you say, oh, I'll do the next commission check. But what if that next commission check doesn't come because it doesn't close and you got to start all over again? So I think the best piece of advice that I could give anyone, if you're already in it, hopefully you have 6 months in the bank. And again, get a business plan or a financial plan and pay yourself so you won't feel the highs and the lows, because I don't feel them anymore. I remember we talked about it. My first year, I made $2,200. Actually, $2,274. Yeah. But I also had 6 months in the bank.
Right.
So carried me over. You know what I mean? But that was the incentive to get to, get a plan down. So that's what I would do. And I would also talk to veteran agents. I did that. I know I did that. I've said it many times on these podcasts that I listened to Live with Leaders. Brenda Mayette, you interviewed her, and she talked about coming from an employee mindset to owning a business, and it was like shell shock. And I kept listening to it, and she kept saying, you just got to hang in there. You just got to hang in there. So I would speak to a veteran agent, watch podcasts from veteran agents, and not necessarily Miranda. We've talked about that before. I go outside of our brokerage. So,
you think about it too, right, Carol? No matter what business you open, you got to spend money, right? I always use the example of opening a pizzeria, right? Think about, you got to get the space, you got to get the equipment, you got to get the product, you got to get the employees going, you got to get all this stuff going, the advertising and marketing. Before you even open that door and sell your first slice of pizza, you're in the hole at least, I don't know, probably 30, 40 grand, right? By the time you factor all those different things into that. In real estate, you don't have that big of an expense, right? It's relatively a low barrier of entry to get into it. So if you could put even 12,000 bucks away and pay yourself $1,000 a week, start building your business, you could definitely make it on a much lower amount to start a business. But in any business, you have to do that. And I think the big mistake that I see with a lot of agents is that they get into the business, they get their, their business cards, and they just think that the phone's going to blow up, and it doesn't, right? And they're disappointed. And 3 or 4 months into it, they're not doing the right activities, and they're just like, you know what, this is not for me. Or they get their first check, like you said, and they think that 100% of that check is theirs. So we can go really deep on taxes and some of the do's and don'ts. That's probably a call in itself. But I like what you said. Build yourself a bank, support yourself for 3 to 6 months, whether that's your own money, a partner. For me, I did credit lines when I first started. I had some credit cards and credit lines that I did, but I bet on myself that I was going to be able to build a business and be able to pay that off. And it was good debt. It wasn't bad debt. I wasn't spending money on, I don't know, what are some of those jeans back then? Lee jeans and Timberland boots and all kinds of stuff.
Come on. It's DoorDash for you.
DoorDash, there you go. DoorDash.
I think the other thing too is I just said what I made my first year, but I also was doing the activities. So that
Right.
goes to show I was doing the activities and I still only made that money. So keep that in mind. So that's why have some kind of bank savings, somebody you can lean on. Like you said, you did a credit line. You didn't go buy a Mercedes G-Wagon. You
Right.
know, you work the business. And
Right.
I will say this, Willie, the thing about the pizza restaurant, I say it to people, especially newer agents all the time. We are just that. We're a business. And there's so many newer agents that come from employment and getting a paycheck like I was, and they don't realize this is your business. So if you want to open at 7 a.m. and another realtor wants to open at 10, that's how it's going to flow. Just like every other block, there's a Chinese restaurant or an Italian restaurant. Why do they all work and then one or two don't work? Why is that? You know what I mean? It's the same thing with realtors. But I will say, for me, it goes back to structure and consistency. I can't, yeah. The structure keeps me lined up, and then the consistency keeps me on that structure.
Yeah, consistency is the key for sure. All right, let's switch gears to luxury marketing, right? There's a big difference between residential resale marketing and luxury sale marketing. Now, I know, I don't really consider you a big luxury market person, but I know that you've worked in a luxury market and you attract luxury listings. But what would you say separates the two, Carol? Because a lot of people think that it's like a whole different tiger out there. But what would separate luxury from residential in your mind when it comes to
I
marketing?
think in my mind, it's the emotion that it emotes. So when you see a mansion versus you seeing maybe a cottage out in the woods or whatever, what's the emotion that it emotes? And for me, I have a wide variety of clients, both over $1 million, under $1 million, both buyers and sellers. Most importantly, I think they all deserve luxury marketing because that $200,000 or $100,000 house is someone's mansion. It may have been their first home. It may have been their first amount of savings that they could save. So I think that they deserve the luxury marketing, but what sets it apart is the emotion that if you see I was just in South Beach, Florida last week and went on a home tour for all the celebrities, and J-Lo's yacht was bigger than her mother's house that was on the property, and I was like, whoa. So again, that's the emotion. You see the emotion. Whereas if it was a little shed, I'd have been like, there was a few celebrities that had very small yachts, and we all had that same emotion. So I think from a marketing point of view, you dig deep into what's the emotion. Again, if it's a modern mansion, is it gonna, equate to someone who really wants old world style? So I look into digging in deeper into it from the marketing point of view.
That sounds good. And then how would you position, say, a luxury home to attract higher end buyers?
So I would look into the neighborhood as far as what's it known for? Is it in Saratoga? Is it down in Kingston in the art district? I'm speaking in this area, right? Or is it an old world style out in Amsterdam? I would really lean into it as far as, am I going to be trying to attract someone coming from New York City? Am I going to be looking to get someone from Canada to come down, just for the track? Whatever it is, I think that you have to do the research on where is that luxury listing? What is it willing to offer buyers? Again,
Right. What amenities?
Is it construction? Is it old world style? Is
Mhm.
it because the school is rated? What is it that it's offering? That's, again, with any home, but luxury indeed creates the emotion of it.
Awesome. All right, so there's agents out there that say I only want to do luxury listings, right? Now let's just say that to be the case, and someone really was set for just doing luxury. What advice would you give for agents to get into that market, that luxury market?
Do your homework. get a hold of a bunch of realtors that do luxury and see what each one does differently. Because again, that goes back to what I said earlier about myself. I have a niche, and that niche is to serve my clients, right? Regardless, I need to serve them to the best of my abilities and give them everything I've got. So again, lean into either a veteran in the luxury market that you want to be in, because you have to find out who is in the top 10 or the top 5 in that. Why?
Right.
Because if you want to get into that, they're going to be your competition. See what they're doing. See how they've been doing it. And you also might meet someone who's looking to sell their business or retire.
Mm-hmm.
Especially in this area, there's a lot of us.
Yeah, yeah. And I would say the other thing too is if, you get what you ask for. So if you want luxury market, then start doing your marketing and your promotions and download a list of, assessed values over a certain number that you're looking to go into. That way you have them in your database, and then you can mail them, right? Mail them newsletters, mail them information on luxury branding or marketing, and let them get to know, like, and trust you through direct mail. Because I think that it's, not that I think, I know, social media only goes so far. But when you show up in their mailbox, a lot of these people are not even on social media. A lot of these people are not swiping or not going to pick a real estate agent based on, who came up in their feed. It's going to be who's showing up in their mailbox on a consistent basis, educating them on what's going on in the market. Do you agree with that?
Yes, and when you talk to the luxury market realtors in your area or where you want to be, they're going to tell you what they do.
Right.
The majority of them are going to say, I do an every door direct mail. I do a client event at the clubhouse. I go to the country club. I do that. They're going to tell you, and then just take it all in and figure out what works for you. So I think it's key to really do your homework. If that's what you want to do, land it, stick it,
Yeah.
learn it.
Oh, awesome. All right. Just round out a couple questions on here. What one habit that's had the biggest impact on your overall success, right? If there was one habit you had to pick, I know we went over a lot of different ones, but what's one habit that you would say that's really had a major impact on your success?
Probably the biggest habit is my consistency. Regardless if you're busy or not, I'm consistent. I said it earlier. I'm not a big video fan. You already know that. So I'm not going to be consistent with videos. Okay. But I am going to be consistent with my calls. Why? Because obviously I like to talk. So, and I like to communicate with people, and I like to have fun with them. So my biggest goal, and always the one that makes me, I feel, stand out, is my consistency. I'm top notch when it comes to it. If I don't, again, I'll make the 50 calls. If I only get 35 in, then the next day, guess what? I got to make 65.
Right.
I don't know, you know what I mean?
And you are very consistent. And for those that don't know, Carol's been walking 4 miles a day, every day, without missing a day, sick or rain, shine, snow, for how long now? How many?
April 1st was 6 years.
April 1st was 6 years, guys. Listen to that. You want to talk about consistency? Imagine 4 and not 3 miles, not 5 miles, 4 miles a day, every day for 6 years. It's
And
incredible.
let me tell you, there are so many times I've sent you videos. I'm like, I don't want to be here.
I know.
But again, it goes to the other thing that we talk about all the time, and you stress upon it: accountability. At the end of the week, I send my sister the track on my app, and she sees it. And she used to show it to my mom, not so much anymore. So it's been back and forth. But there's the accountability. So I don't want to not send her, or if I don't send her and she says, hey, where is it? And it's, oh, it's missing a day. Not going to happen.
All right, last question for you. I get this a lot of times, right? And I know there's no magic pill that agents can take, but this is really going out for some of the agents that are maybe just starting in the business, or maybe even some agents that are in a little slump right now. But let's just talk about, if you were starting all over, right? Put yourself back 11 years, knowing what you know now, and you were starting all over, maybe in a different area, a different market. What would you do first?
First, and most importantly, lean into my sphere. I did not do that. I bought leads. I went crazy. I answered phones. I filled in for, different realtors. I would lean into my spirit because of what you said and what everyone with a brain cell knows. They already like you. They already trust you. Come on, you know what I mean? And even that, if they like you, practice on them. Hey, listen, I just got into real estate. I know you just bought your house, but can I practice with you? I understand there's AI, you can do role playing on a whole bunch of websites, but how about somebody who likes you? Because they'll like you and they'll say, I wouldn't say that, Carol. Well, that didn't sound right, Carol. I would do that in a heartbeat. If I had to move somewhere and start all over again, I would start with my phone and I would lean into my sphere and say, hey, just moved to South Carolina. This is what I'm going to do. Well, how can you help me?
Awesome. Well, great advice. Great advice. All right. If someone was reaching out or wanted to do business with you, Carol, or maybe an agent wanted to contact you in some way, what is the best way for them to get a hold of you?
You can call me 518-522-0547, or you can email me at 522-0547@gmail.com. I really want to know, I want to tell you this. 11 years ago when I got that email, I should have put the area code and I didn't, but it's all right. It is what it is. So, or you go to my website.
Can you buy it?
carolsteven.com.
Okay, carolsteven.com. All right, so got a quick comment on here. Carol, thank you so much. You look fabulous and you were very inspiring. So great job. And you always do a great job, always giving back to agents. And that's why we all love you, Carol. So thank you so much. I appreciate your time today. And
you guys go get it and kill it.
That's right. Yeah, Nikki Davis was telling me the other day, there was only, let's say today, 112 days that we went through so far in 2026, but there's still 253 days left. You could still crush it. And Carol, you know that to be true because I remember there's been some years where your first quarter, second quarter wasn't that great, but you were so determined to make President's Club and to still hit your goals. And you've pretty much done it every time.
And I think that's the important thing. Everybody listening to this, don't count yourself out. Even though first quarter is done, maybe you didn't do what you were supposed to do. Remember this, take ownership of it. If you didn't make your calls, you didn't do your Popeyes, you didn't do your farming, whatever it is you said you were going to do today, do it. So that you're not looking at this next month going, oh, I didn't do that. I didn't take ownership of it. You've got to kill it. You can, you will. You must.
All right. Well, hey, listen, I'm not even going to add to that. So that was awesome. Great, great ending to this call. And thank you so much. And to your success in 2026.
We'll go get them.
All right. Thanks, Carol.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. Take care. Bye.